Okay, when I said find your seats, that means now, not later. Seats, everybody, seats. I call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. Hello, everybody. This is where you say hi back. Thank you. Oh, yay! Oh, beautiful stuff. Thank you. So we'll move to section 2, roll call. Clerk Carter.
With 22 members present, simple majority is 12 and 2/3 majority is 15.
Beautiful. And now we'll move to 3.1, messages from the student body president. Clerk Carter. Okay, there are none yet, so we'll move to 3.2, report from the executive branch. Vice President Font.
Good evening, everyone. I hope your week has been going well. I just have a few things for everyone here today. So today, President Howard and I met with President Muma and Director Easton Breyer of Facility Services today. So with President Muma, we discussed parking issues, the organization bill that was recently passed, and the sustainability initiatives. With Director Breyer, we formulated a plan to move the community garden to be closer to the Shocker Success Center so that the Shocker Support Locker may be able to receive food that would be harvested from the community garden. The goal is to have the community garden to be moved by the spring, but we're still working out some of the finer details of moving the community garden. And yeah, tomorrow we will meet with Chief of Staff Gearhart, and Friday we will meet with Director Saul of Athletics for our monthly meetings. We just are catching up with different things happening across the university, but one thing that has been pretty consistent in all of our conversations is talking about parking initiatives and what we can do to make the student experience a lot better in terms of finding parking, making lots more accessible or easy to identify which lots are for students, which lots are for visitors, and which lots are for Shocker Hall students. We are also planning to meet with the satellite campuses in the coming weeks to take tours and even table at the different events that they have throughout this month and next month. We also have an open position that for the Associate Justice on the Supreme Court. The application is live on Shocker Seek, and you can find more information on our social media and on the SJ website. We also have a executive order signed for the appropriations task force. So for that task force, we are really looking to have conversations with a lot of different groups on what our funding philosophy will be throughout this year, the rest of this year, and for next session. For that task force, it'll be made up of 3 members of the executive branch. So that would be me, Treasurer Long, and Director Arens, and in addition to Speaker Owens, Government Oversight Chairperson Bobbitt, and 3 senators, and in addition to that, 3 RSOs, 1 from each tier for the task force. But if any of you have any questions on what that would entail, or if you have any interest, please let me, or if you're a senator, let Speaker Owens know. That's it for me, but for Student Body Treasurer Long, this week the Finance Commission processed 3 individual funding and 4 organizational funding requests that you will see on the consent agenda tonight. For these organizations, we approve all of them after reviewing their applications and hearing presentations from them. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, we will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Today, we also have some appointments for the Finance Commission with Jaden Sig and Chelsea Junin as the freshman and engineering commissioners. So I'm really happy to say that we're filling those seats. We interviewed both of them, and we thought President Howard, Treasurer Wong, and I thought they were all really good fits for the positions, and I can really vouch for them as they are really passionate about advocating for the students. The Finance Commission still has some open positions, so our open positions are applied studies, health professions, honors, liberal arts and sciences, military and veterans, and out of state. If you know anyone that's interested in any of those positions, we would love to have more people apply. Those applications are still open on Shocker Sync, I would be more than happy to answer any questions about that also. For updates for Director Fritz, she currently has 10 official members of FLC. They are still open to adding more people to the Freshman Leadership Council, and those applications are still on Shocker Sync. Recently, they held successful panels with the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The freshmen on the Freshman Leadership Council really enjoyed having all of you guys that came there, and they would still love to have senators or members of the cabinet visit. For Director Sadov, she is currently having a Shocker Vibe Check poll going to happen every Friday, where they'll post it on social media, see how people are feeling about different issues. Then we will also have an inquiry form that will go live this week for students to submit inquiries about SGA or different issues that they might be passionate about, that we will have people answering those as the week goes on. For SOC Chairperson Chohan, there are 4 RSOs that are up for recognition on the consent agenda. Pretty wide range of student organizations that are up for recognition. If you haven't taken a look yet, please look at those. They're really interesting organizations that I'm excited to have on campus. And in addition to that, she is still planning to have a president's meeting for next month. We will send out details for that very soon. For our undergraduate advocate Wassinger, there are still 9 active cases that they're working through, so one court appeal is being scheduled, 4 students are gathering materials to appeal, and then 1 parking citation that is being worked through right now. And if you have any feedback on ways we can improve the appeals process, or even things that we can work on with parking and parking appeals, the advocates are open to those suggestions also. But that's all the updates I had for you all today. I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Now we'll have Clerk Carter read the messages from the Student Body President, Kylie Howard.
Messages from the Student Body President, Kylie Howard. Under Article 3, Section 4, the Student Body President is required to enforce statutes, resolutions, policies of the Association while reserving the authority to veto and invalidate any action of the Senate. Additionally, the Student Body President is granted administrative authority via executive order as such. Presented to the Student Body President were the following bills, and as Student Body President, I report the following. SB-67-001 through SB-67-085 have been signed and approved as presented and enacted into law. SB-67-086 has been withdrawn by the Student Body President. SB-67-087 has been signed and approved as presented and enacted into law. Presented to the Student Body President were the following resolutions, and as Student Body President, I report the following. AR-67-001 through AR-67-007 have been signed and approved as presented and enacted into law. Authorized by the Student Body President, I submit the following executive orders. Executive Order -67-012, forming the Task Force on SGA funding.
Wonderful, thank you. Now we'll move to 3.3, report from the Speaker of the Senate. Mine is short today. So last Friday, as Vice President Fawn stated, the Finance Commission met and approved 4 organizational funding bills and 3 individual funding bills. These processes are different than the appropriations process, as they're an entirely separate pool of money. So if you have any questions about what this process looks like or how that differs, please let me know, and we can have conversations about that as that presents itself. But beyond that, all 7 of those bills are on the consent agenda for today, which we'll dive into when we get to that section of the agenda. Additionally, as stated, there are 2 appointment bills for Finance Commission seats. And then we have additionally 3 RSO recognition bills. Last week, we passed the Organization and Recognition Advocacy Act, but as that has not yet been signed, we still have within our jurisdiction approving RSOs. So those are on the floor today, and pending that approval, we will obviously enact that bill itself and no longer have that responsibility, but because it's not signed yet, we still do. So those are also on the consent agenda today. And then we have, for our 2 bills that we'll actually be discussing in for their first reads, the Judicial Clarification Act and the Line of Succession Bill, all of which I presume that Chairperson Bobbitt will talk about in the report, so any questions can be directed to him at that time. And additionally, it is also our lovely clerk Noah's birthday today, so whenever we do our little adjourning, we'll sing a little happy birthday. So so that is all I have for reports, but are there any questions about that? Wonderful. We'll move to 3.4, report from the Government Oversight Chair, Chairperson Bobbitt.
I will actually talk about the Judicial Clarification and Line of Succession Act a little bit later to be respectful of our public forum guests. But the only update I have for you guys is that Shocker Vote will be holding their vice president debate watch party here in this room on October 1st from 7 to 10 p.m. It is in conjunction between Shocker's Vote, Residence and Housing Life, and the Poli-Sci Department. I strongly encourage all of our senators to make an appearance. At the very least, you can interact with students, and hopefully you'll gain something from the experience. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Now we move on to 3.5, report from Academic Affairs, Chairperson Grajeda.
So today, Director Arns and I met with the president of the Faculty Senate, Matthew Muther, I think that's how you say his last name, and we discussed initiatives from both sides and plans to work on building connections between the 2 senates. Faculty Senate this week reported on, in pertaining to students, they reported on a new inclement weather policy, student conduct and community standards policy review, and we had a report from the Director of Athletics, Kevin Saul, about student-athlete grades and their academic resources. Academic Affairs has submitted the Advisor Feedback Act, which will be on the floor next week for its first read, and in time for that, we will also have the Registrar's Page Information Enhancement Resolution. And I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move to 3.6, report from Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion, Chairperson Haynes.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Not much of a lengthy report today. We just had a successful committee meeting today, so I'm super excited to get all of our legislation from out of that committee that the senators are working on. Additionally, Halo had their pupusa sale today. It went very well. Other agency updates would be Black Student Union has their community service event in partnership with the NPHC here at Wichita State and Gordon Parks Elementary School. They're doing their Boogie on the Blacktop event, so that'll be good. If you're interested, please come out. And then additionally, ASC will have their community service event on Friday. But other than that, ISU is continuously planning their cricket, their World Cup cricket event, and I believe it is coming off this week. So it's going to be a good time had by y'all. I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.7, report from Student Services, Chairperson Adriana Owens.
Hello, everyone. During committee this week, we have the Director of Sustainability and Wellness and both the undergraduate and graduate advocates come to our committee to discuss initiatives for this year. We continue to work on legislation regarding housing, parking, and accessibility related issues, which can be found in the Senator Collaboration section of the teams. I also request that if anyone has projects they would like my help with or would like to collaborate with Student Services, that you email me or I will forget about it. WC Dream is also having a mobility aid obstacle course on September 27th from 11 to 1 p.m. in the Shocker Hall East Pavilion. This helps to gain insight about what it's like for people with disabilities who use mobility aids to navigate everyday life. Those mobility aids will be provided. I recommend that you show up if you can.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move to section 4, public forum and presentations. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate. This is a time for the association to listen to what the community has to say, and to that we offer our undivided respect and attention. I'd like to remind everyone that although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the association or the university. We have 4.1, John Lee, Director of Campus Recreation.
You skipped the central office.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Sorry, Gabe.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Lee. I'm the Director of Campus Recreation, and I brought with me a friend and a colleague, Calvin Cupp. He's a Director of Rowing and the Boathouse downtown. Thank you for letting us speak in front of you today. I'll start off by saying I am not asking for anything. I just am super proud of our programs and services, and I just wanted to share. Nothing more than that. Because we do a lot, and I don't want it to be in the shadows sometimes. So that's the goal. In student affairs, often we talk about connecting every student, belonging, which helps especially with exercise, with mental health and applied learning. And I think we have so many programs and services that we offer that connects students of all different backgrounds, and that's what I want to share today. I could speak for 3 hours on this because I'm passionate about it. I will not. Just 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes at most. So we'll just go to the next page. Most of you know we have intramural sports over at the Heskett Center and on our play fields as well. Really any space that we can have a competitive activity. Last year we had 7,000 participants, 20 intramural activities, 300 teams, 32 employees, and over 600 games. And we try to have a variety of different sporting events that different students can get involved with. We don't have our outdoor courts anymore, but when the new pickleball courts are there, any spot that we can have a competition, we'll find a way to use it, for sure. We even used the sand volleyball courts by the church as well. So right now we're doing flag football, and futsal starts soon. So. Since COVID, we used to have 10, 11 club teams. We're up to 24 as of yesterday. Some got cut off there, but you know, we talk about belonging and finding your group on campus. You know, I grew up through intramurals, and to this day, many of my friends from back then, and I'm old, I still have because I made connections back in college. And club sports is one way to do that. And as you see, we have baseball and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, lots of dance, different types of programs as well. So if you want to start a club at the Heskett Center, we're willing to have you. Last year, our competitive teams traveled over 23,000 miles. So certainly amount of time that they spent together in competitive ways. And then hopefully they made a friend and found their niche on campus. So 24 different club teams. The next one, I just wanted to mention this. One of our club teams is the cricket team. You may have heard this last year, but it's kind of a big deal. But we don't really have the field space to have a true cricket pitch. The international students who play cricket, or any student who plays cricket, came to me and asked if they could use Glenday Park. I said, let me make a few phone calls, and Mayor Wu and the director of Parks and Rec at the time said yes. And we broke ground last spring. Mayor Wu's in the picture there. And the fun thing, you know, you're trying to just develop programs and services where people from any part of the university or from any background can have something to do. And cricket is such a big international sport, and we have a lot of countries, people who go to school who are from the countries that play cricket, like India and Sri Lanka and so on. The International Education Office found out about this and sent out 108,000 emails or whatever they do over there to potential prospects around the world. Will somebody come to Wichita State because of the cricket field? Probably not. But will somebody stay here and have a better experience because they got to meet friends through this organization? Absolutely. If you're interested, they have a game on Sunday, I believe, all day long. Cricket's a long sport. It's like 8 hours. So, you know, we have facilities, as you might mention, but the reason why I have this slide up here is not just to talk about the facilities, and I'm more than happy to give you a tour, but these are, not everything has to be a formal program to get people involved. Right now over at the Heskett Center, there's a bunch of people playing badminton. And they're by far the second most sport played after basketball at the Heskett Center is badminton. And it's not even particularly close. They're there almost every night. We don't have an intramural or something else that kicks them off. We try to give them the best equipment possible. I wanted to point out that I was meeting with Dr. Hall a couple weeks ago, well, actually 2 months ago, and I was lamenting the fact that our badminton poles weren't to the standards what our badminton players wanted, because they wanted a crank, and they don't build badminton poles with a crank. I know this is a little long-winded, but she suggested working with the engineering department and the students over there. So yes, today they brought over the last 5 badminton poles that have a crank on it. So the nets are really tight and they're really happy about it. We bought new nets for them. And so that happens there. You know, we have a bunch of other spaces like esports that has unique individuals that play it. F45, which I do every day. If you do that, whatever, we offer it 4 times a day, Monday through Friday, and once on Saturdays and Sundays. It's like a family if you go all the time. You get to know people, and it's a fun way to work out. So I'm not going to list them all, but just know that all these areas, people gather, including our dance studios. I did want to mention those. We have 3 of them. There's actually 5, but the dance department has the other 2. We will have people reserve those spaces for cultural dances. When Songfest comes up, when Hippodrome comes up, they're used all the time. We don't charge them anything extra. So that way we know there's a space. We just have them called and they reserve a space so they know it's theirs when they get there. So that's pretty cool as well. And when the new pickleball courts are built, I'm sure they'll be packed like the other ones were all the time. So, Shaka rowing, which is Calvin's area of the world. We have, I want to talk about a River Vista Boathouse that opened in 2018. We pay $1 a year for that. Why do we pay just $1 a year? It's because Calvin's task, when he worked really hard, and it was all him, that got the city, the university administration, and movers and shakers around Wichita to make this project happen. We're on the west bank of the Arkansas River, and you're all welcome to come down there. It's a fabulous boathouse. But we pay $1 because his team activates the river. He does that 2 ways, through his rowing program and through, on the left slide over there, or my left, is boats and bikes. So it's a rental program that's mostly this summer. Goes through September, I think so.
Well, our last rentals will be in October.
So last rental's in October. And you can check out a paddle boat. In the summer, it's open 7 days a week. And this time of year, it's just weekends because the daylight gets a little short in the evenings. So we pay $1 because we activate the river. So we need to do boats and bikes to activate the river along with the rowing team. Typically, we have about 50 athletes, give or take. Throughout the year, 100 people probably are on the team at one point or another. Sometimes it's not for everybody. Getting up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 or whatever time it is not always things. But if you ever go to a regatta, they're so fun because, again, people are meeting each other, committing lifelong relationships. It's just a fun way. And it's my last slide, but I'm going to point out here, this year is the 50th anniversary of Shaka Rowing. And we're really proud of that it's been around this long time. The original coach at Wichita State before Calvin, it was a person named Vespoli, and there's boats that he makes and that are famous. If you're not into rowing, you won't know that, but there's a long and proud history, and lots of alumni through the years still connect. In May, we have our regatta, and we're going to have a banquet and try to bring back as many ex-rowers and coaches as possible. So we have 38 volunteers and staff. We have 9 regattas. They traveled over 4,000 miles. And I just want to point out or emphasize on the boats and bikes program, it's a small business. It's a lot of work. We don't have anybody extra to do it, but we want to pay that $1 fee, so we're willing to do it to give the students at Wichita State a great experience. And it is a great boathouse. It's at the River Vista apartment complex. You're all welcome to come down, and Calvin loves giving a tour. He can give you the 10-minute tour, or he can give you the 3-hour tour. Some people may not know this, but we were at our student affairs breakfast, so I did the math. Campus recreation accounts for 40% of the student staff that work in student affairs. We had 126 work at every one moment? No, people come, people go. And we have lots of different programs, whether it's boats and bikes, or whether it's intramurals, or whether it's the building, or whether it's aquatics, or massage, F45. We have lots of students. They come from over 20 different countries. So we hire people from different majors and different backgrounds, and they're the most enjoyable people to work with. And I hope when we have our annual banquet, usually at the zoo through our foundation account, they have a wonderful time and they get to know each other, and it's just a great way to do that. But in addition to just employing them, hopefully they're learning some applied learning opportunities. We teach everybody first aid, Title IX training, customer service, and all the other things that we should be teaching them, as well as how to be a lifeguard or how to officiate and so on. But we're proud of our students. And the biggest thing you did in the last student government in the last 3 years is you gave them a raise to $10. I've never seen people more happy than when it went from $7.25 to $10. That was a massive, especially a lot of international students can't work off campus, or none of them really, I don't think. So it's their opportunity. So $10 an hour was a big deal. And so just want to say thank you for that. Special events, there's a little on the bottom is right side. I think we had 4, 8, 12, 16 special events. That's in addition to all the other stuff we do. I expect all of you at the Pumpkin Run. It's a 5K run in October 19th or 20th, whatever that Saturday is. No, we usually have 500 to 700 runners. We've already got over 250, I think. So it's a good time. People walk it, people run it. And we've done that since the 80s, I believe. Also coming up is Fright Night, which is kind of a haunted house over at the Heskett Center. We have lots of events down at the boathouse, so I'm not going to tell you about each one, but just like all events on campus that are, special events to me are one night. We have a health fair too, and you get to know people and get to people to enjoy a good time. So we do that as well. Community partnerships. Part of the university's mission is to partner with the university. I'm going to talk about Club Parkinson's in just a second, but Rowing for Youth Horizons was working with little kids and teaching them on the river how to be a team for people who are economically disadvantaged, I'll say. Sporting KC, Festivals Inc., American Red Cross, Special Olympics, and the Shocker neighborhood. We believe we have spaces that we can benefit people in the community, but just as important, we always think that there's an applied learning opportunities for our students at Wichita State. So that's why we do them ultimately. And the biggest version of that, I suppose, is Club Parkinson's. They have over 116, I believe, members as of this week. It's sad that there's 116 people that need this program, but it's such a wonderful program. It's about, living with that disease. It's about meeting people with similar attributes and getting better and learning to deal with it on a daily basis. And just as important, as I mentioned, over 50 students each semester help out with the Club Parkinson's programs from all different programs, including the dance department. There's a person who teaches dance to people with Club Parkinson's, very cute. Physical therapists, public health, and a bunch of other things. So if you ever come over in the morning, you might see The average age at the Heskett Center has skyrocketed to 75. And that's not just because Calvin was there. Me too. It's because we offer this program, and it's so wonderful. And President Muma has been a big supporter of the program, and they also use the pool as well. So it's just fun to see people get better and have a laugh and work with students at Wichita State. So. Odds and ends. All those programs you see are done with 5 full-time people and 2 rowing coaches. We don't have a facility coordinator. We don't have an administrative specialist. So you might see me painting the fields and I pay a bill. I ask Calvin to fix things around the Heskett Center. I ask Beth, who's in charge of aquatics, to pay all 126 student personnel. And she's in charge of all the student staff, the building student staff and the aquatic student staff. It's just the way it is. It's fine, but I just wanted to tell you how proud I am of our 5 people who put on all those programs, and we have a building to run on top of that that's 166,000 square feet. So kudos to them, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, and a lot of long days, but it's so worth it to have people have fun and have a wonderful experience at Wichita State. What else? I mentioned 50 years of shocker rowing. My last little point here, if you saw the facilities master plan, Campus Rec, in my opinion, is all over it. One day the Hess Center will be torn down. I might be retired by then, we'll see. It could take a while, but there's gonna be a new facility next to the Y that's recreation. The Y to me is fitness. We cross paths in that way, but they're about fitness more. We're about recreation. So you play basketball, you play pickleball, you do that kind of thing. Where at the Y, you're lifting weights and getting on that treadmill and so on. So it'll be a new facility. On the plan, they have 2 soccer fields, one where Hubbard Hall is and one where off of 21st Street. There used to be a field there a long time ago. So we'll be back on campus, I guess, one day. Also where the futsal, it's not futsal, but the current pickleball courts are gonna be placed. The master plan shows more basketball courts and maybe a futsal court, but the big soccer field's there, so we're not sure if we'll build futsal. So there's more stuff that's coming outdoors. And if you went by our outdoor courts in the last couple years, you can see they're always packed in the evenings, if it's even halfway decent. Over at, what's the park on 17th Street? Fairmount Park. There's even more campus rec and community stuff that we would share. 2 soccer fields, 2 basketball courts, 2 tennis courts, 4 pickleball courts, and I forget what I wrote at the end here. But, and there's also a walking trail, and like I started saying at the beginning, if there's something that we can make a competition out of, or recreation out of, doesn't everything have to be a competition, then we'll use that as well. So we're excited about the future because there's a plan for campus recreation, but we're also excited about the present. And if you have a question for myself or Calvin, I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
Are there any questions? Chairperson Bobbitt?
How can we as senators and then SGA as a whole kind of help and support the mission of Campus Rec?
Well, step one is you're here tonight listening to all our programs, but if you think we're missing a group of people that could use this, we're open to that suggestion. As I begin, I told you at the beginning, I'm not asking for any more money. We've been cut a lot, so as long as we keep our current funding, give or take, we should be in good shape. So, but just getting the pulse of, you're on the ground, so to speak, and if you have the pulse and you think we could do something, add a program, and it can be a little bit different. It doesn't always have to be, like we have West Coast Swing Dance now as a intramural, a sport club. So, and then, if call us, talk to us, and we'll add it. One thing we're gonna do, which I haven't told my staff yet, in the summer next year, in spring, is we're going to work with the Shocker neighborhood and have special events over at Fairmount Park once or twice a year. So.
Well, we know now.
Yeah.
Real quickly, if I could add just one thing. One, thank y'all for giving us the time to come speak, but John's right. Whatever when you talk to your constituents, with the people that you represent, when you're working with them, and just like they want to know about parking on campus or whatever their other concerns are, the things that we can do to keep students invested in campus, to get them active on campus, to get them connected, then all the studies show that retention goes up. When people belong to something, when they're connected to it, when they feel like they're contributing and they're important to it, then they're successful with that, and it also impacts their academics in a positive way. So if there's a program that we don't offer, then we'll try to offer it. And we try to offer very dynamic programming. And if you haven't been to the Heskett Center recently, or to the Playfields, or to the Boathouse, then us just talking to you, it's kind of one-dimensional. So I encourage you, when you have the time, to go out and really look at the spaces, really go to a program and see the impact it's making with the students and with your peers, because those are the things that are going to create that college experience. Those are the things that are going to help with retention, that's going to help your fellow students be more successful academically, and the applied learning, the student experience, all of those developments. That's what we're really all about.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move back to report from the central office.
Thank you. Really quick, the presentation is in the Teams, so if you wanted to see the parts that were cut off, they're in the Teams there for you to look at under the Senate resources. The only thing that I wanted to share is that elections do open on Monday. As a reference, ballot is only going to students whose seats are open. It is not going to all students like we normally do in a general election. So if you are, or anyone who is watching is a student in one of the seats that is up for elections, for example, I know health professions is one, then health profession students will get a ballot to vote in the election next week. So just as a reference, while we open elections, not every single person will get a ballot unless there's a seat open for that constituency to vote on. And that is all I have, unless there are any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move to section 5, approval of the consent agenda. But before we do, I just want to talk a little bit about what is,
I'll say, shouldn't we go back to public forum to see if anyone else has to speak?
Yes, we should. Thank you. Sorry, it's been a long week. It's time for fall break. I'm ready for that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in public forum? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Now we'll move to section 5, approval of the consent agenda. Thank you all for keeping me on my toes. So we have obviously our minutes, classic stuff, but we also have organizational funding, 4 organizational requests, and then 3 individual funding requests. So organizational funding is a pool of $30,000 that organizations can, make an application to apply for up to $3,000. The difference is, unlike appropriations, it's not a one-time amount that they get to spend throughout the year. It is based on a 30-day period that they have to spend those funds during that time. So let's say the I Heart Gabriel Club applies for $1,000 of organizational funding, and they plan on doing using that funding for one event within the next 30 days, then that's an appropriate expenditure, and that is obviously, because it is a refund process. But if that organization comes and says, I would like to use this money next spring, then that is not an appropriate request, and they'll be asked to, apply again closer to the date. So when it came to this funding, you'll see some different amounts, obviously, than the request amount. This is simply because of that. Simply because they didn't fall within the that 30-day period of time. So, and then the individual funding, we had 3 requests, all of which were, I believe, approved at the intended amount of request. But you can all see all of those there. The Finance Commission definitely worked very hard on making sure all of these organizations were heard, seen, and understood the process. So, are there any questions about the organizational fund process or individual fund process or anything about the bills itself before we move on to talking a little bit more about other items? Okay, seeing none. Wonderful. Then we have our 2 appointments for the Finance Commission. As we're leaning into student fees, we need to make sure that we're really getting all of our members on the Finance Commission, but also as we're continuing to see organizational and individual funding. Then we have 3 organizations that have been approved, and I put these primarily on the consent agenda simply because in the future, due to the passage of our previous legislation last Senate meeting, it will no longer be our ability to approve those in the capacity that it was previously. So I put those there, and traditionally they have been there anyway when we have seen those in past sessions. And then last one is just reassigning a senator to a different committee. Are there any questions about the consent agenda before we continue? Wonderful. Are there any objections to the approval of the consent agenda as such? Okay, seeing none, it is approved. Wonderful. Now we'll move to section 6, which we have nothing, and then move to section 7, consideration of new business, 7.1.
Act on request to approve SB-67-104 Judicial Clarification Act.
Is the author here and would like to speak? You have the floor.
I'm going to talk from up here just so that I can better answer your questions and actually get to see who's asking them. But the Judicial Clarification Act is aimed at meeting the Chief Justice's challenge of making the court more accessible and transparent. It just includes some additional language to provide guidance on kind of our expectations of accessibility to court meetings and making sure that the court does serve as a body in which the Senate, the President, other members of the association can lean on when we're seeking clarification on things, and making sure that the court is going about everything in a way that is accessible to students.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And I'll have you stay up here for 7.2. No.
Act on request to approve SB-67-105 Leadership Succession Act.
Is the author here and would like to speak? You have the floor.
The Leadership Succession Act kind of accomplishes the kind of the same thing for the legislative and executive side of things. It's takes a new approach at the line of succession and kind of has some ideas on how we could improve that to make sure the best candidates are being raised to the position of president of the association, and just clarifying some information on different aspects of what happens should our leadership need to step down.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And those are both first reads, and those are going to Government Oversight Committee for that to be passed, and then we'll get its second read after that. But that's all I have, folks. So we're at Section 8, adjournment, and I adjourn this meeting at 8:13 p.m. Oh, everyone, please say happy birthday to Noah. I won't make you sing. I won't. Please, ever just, yeah, okay, beautiful stuff.